Alright guys, we're tackling one of the most common questions I get, and that is, how do I get a job in regulatory affairs? Guys, I'm sharing 7 tips. Lucky for you, I've got over 10 years in this field. There's a lot of ground to cover, so let's go. Hey guys, it's Brian back at you with another video where my goal is to help you guys create a career and life that you'll be proud of. And if you're looking for job search tips and career growth advice from my experience behind company lines, then look no further. So hit that sub button and know that I'm here to help you guys out. And to that point, I've made a number of videos already around regulatory affairs as a career path. And that's because this is my foundation and it's what led me onto my career journey, and I've had great success along the way. I actually started out as a co-op student, brought into regulatory affairs as an assistant, and then over time took on leadership roles and then eventually promoted into executive positions. And it's allowed me to create some wonderful networks. It opened me up to opportunities outside of regulatory affairs. And if this is a career path you're interested in, guys, I can help you out. Which, by the way, if you want to know more about my bio, you can definitely click on the link down below. So we're going to go through the 7 steps to help you guys land a job in regulatory affairs. But I want to stress before we do that regulatory affairs spans a wide variety of sectors. I know a lot of you guys found me because of your education background in the sciences, and understandably, typically you would gravitate towards like the pharmaceutical drug sector. But I want you guys to know that regulatory affairs is actually bigger than that. You've got medical devices, things like toothbrushes and pacemakers. There are veterinary drugs. I mean, animals need to get treatment as well. And there are apps that are designed by companies to give users health advice based on their blood sugar levels. When you're in the sciences, this is typically the areas that they want you to go after. But there are other sectors like supplements, foods, or cosmetics that are looking for really smart people with advanced degrees. Some of these companies are very well recognized brands. They've got tons of cash, which means they're going to compensate you well for your expertise. And why am I saying that? Well, I think some people don't realize or know that these industries exist, and some of you guys might actually kind of just snob it off. There's an association sometimes that drugs or pharma is better or more elite than, say, doing cosmetics. And I'm bringing this up because it might be a lost opportunity. I mean, keep in mind, you guys are new to the world, you have no experience, and moving into these sectors might actually result in less competition for you. So there's a lot more room for growth. You guys can really become experts in this field. I really want you, if anything, just to take the time, do your assessment, and then figure out which sector you really want to go into. First thing you need to do if you want to get that first job in regulatory affairs, and that is, I want you guys to start scoping out the job listings and get a sense of the education requirements, the keywords, the experience that they're looking for in an entry-level position. Scope out the jobs that you guys would actually apply for right out of college. You may quickly learn and realize that the positions that you really want are actually out of reach. But you can also see what positions are actually possible for a fresh grad or for someone who doesn't have experience. Which probably leads to the next question, and that is, Brian, where do I find job listings for regulatory affairs? You can check out websites like monster.com, or you can also check out raps.org. RAPS stands for Regulatory Affairs Professional Society. They actually have job postings on their website, so I definitely encourage you guys to check that out. But a really good place to look at is LinkedIn, which brings us to item number 2, and that is build your LinkedIn profile. Guys, take the time to do a good headshot, write up your summary, and fill out all the fields. And if you want me to do a video about building a LinkedIn profile, let me know in the comment section down below. Okay, so let's say you want to get some experience because the reality is you don't have any. Well, the next tip is to reach out to consulting firms. So I realize that many probably won't hire you, but you also have to realize that they are much smaller than these bigger corporations that you're probably more familiar with. So they don't have these fancy automated HR screening systems. You're dealing with actual people. The HR departments are smaller, they're more manual in terms of process. They're actually going to look at your resume. There's someone you can actually talk to, and out of that, they might actually hook you guys up with an entry-level position. They do need, in reality, someone to do the grunt work. And let's be real here, guys, there's nothing wrong with grunt work, and better yet, you're actually getting work experience and a reference in regulatory affairs, which is exactly what you need to land the next role. Tip number 4, guys, because you're reaching out to companies and consulting firms, you're going to have to update your cover letter and resume. Writing a good resume or cover letter is definitely an art form, and there's a lot to it. And I think many of you actually underestimate its importance. You see, chances are you probably write your resume very similar to the person that you actually graduated with. Think about that for a second, guys. If you just graduated out of college, or maybe you just graduated out of a regulatory affairs degree, on paper, it's very easy for you to sound like the person you just graduated with. And to that point, you guys all write the same way, you all speak the same language, you all use the same words, and you all took the same classes and have the same degree. The end result, on paper, there's nothing special about you. But of course, there's something special about you because you're you and no one else is like you. And my point is that the way you communicate on paper, on your resume or your cover letter, you don't know how to show your uniqueness off, and that's where people really need help. Which, by the way, I do have a career prep course that you can sign up for, where it's a live one-on-one session, you and I, 100% confidential. We go through your cover letter, resume, as well as conduct a mock interview. And speaking of interviews, tip number 5, and that is to practice on how to interview over the phone, on Zoom, on Skype, on FaceTime. I mean, with the whole COVID situation, and of course the realities of finding a job in another country, video and phone interviews are more popular than ever. And the phone is actually even harder to do an interview on. I mean, you can't see the other person. Sometimes it's hard to hear them. And how do I know this? Well, I actually had a really rough interview over the phone once, and I couldn't really hear what they were saying, and as a result, I had a really hard time answering their questions. But I think I'm going to save that story for another time. And as for doing video interviews, I actually have another video which I'll link down below on how to have a flawless video experience, and I think that's really going to help you guys out. All right, the 6th tip I have for you is to reach out to your network from school. Now, I'm not talking about booking a time slot with a career advisor or maybe an office hour visit to your favorite professor. Instead, I want you to be way more targeted. I want you to Google the various professors in your college or university to see what they do outside of the classroom. Some professors actually have companies and businesses that they're about to commercialize their research on, right? They're doing all this lab work to commercialize a product and to make money from that product. They're creating a new drug, a new product application, a new medical device, whatever it is, they actually have a separate company for exactly that. And this is the professor I want you guys to sit down with. I mean, this is someone that actually has real world experience, not just academic experience. They might actually have a job available for you. And if not, they might actually know someone who might have a job opportunity for you, and they can introduce you to them personally. Tip number 7 on getting your first job in regulatory affairs, and that is I want you to reach out to various companies and sectors. Now, you should already have an idea of which industry you want to get into, but usually you get stuck on who to contact. What you can do is look for industry organizations. You can actually go on their website and then look at their member list to filter out which companies you want to go after. Another really cool trick is to look for industry magazines, and then in there you're going to find a whole bunch of advertisements from various brands. Go after the brands you like, that you recognize, that really impress you, or even better, you might recognize a brand or a company that you actually buy or use their products. And in my opinion, this is even better because now you actually have a personal connection with them that you can leverage when it comes to your cover letter or your interview. We've covered so much ground here, but we're not done, guys. I actually have a playlist here that you guys can check out. It's a whole bunch of videos on interview tips and tricks that actually work. Guys, it's so important to get your foot in the door, especially when you lack experience. I hope these tips helped you guys out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.